My name is Johnson. I'm 53 years old. And what I discovered in my own home and my own daughter's eyes shattered everything I believed about the people I love. Everything I thought I knew about being a father, about sacrifice, about unconditional love. It all came crashing down in a single moment. A moment that would haunt me for 3 long years. I gave her everything, every breath I took, every decision I made, every dollar I earned. It was all for her. I thought that's what fathers were supposed to do. I thought love meant protection, guidance, boundaries. I thought I was doing right by her. But the day she looked me in the eyes and said those 5 words that would echo in my mind every single night since, "You're dead to me, Dad," I realized that everything I'd sacrificed had somehow become the very thing she hated me for. But what I saw that night when she came back, 3 years later, standing at my door in the pouring rain, broken and desperate, I'll never forget it. The anger that had burned in her eyes was replaced with something far worse: fear, raw, unfiltered terror. And in that moment, I had to decide whether a father's love could survive being murdered by the very child he'd raised. Before I continue, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. It helps me know someone out there still believes in stories like this. Stories about broken families, shattered trust, and the impossible question of whether some wounds can ever truly heal. Because I need to know I'm not alone in this pain. I need to know that somewhere out there, someone understands what it feels like to lose your child while they're still breathing. There was a time when my life made sense, when everything had order and purpose. I remember those mornings so vividly they feel like scenes from someone else's life now, like a movie I watched once about a man who had it all figured out. I'd wake up at 5:30 every morning, make my coffee in the same blue mug Sarah had given me on our 10th anniversary, back when she was still alive, back when cancer was just something that happened to other people's wives. After Sarah passed, it was just me and Emma, my little girl. Except she wasn't so little anymore. By the time she was 17, she was already taller than her mother had been, with Sarah's same fierce intelligence and stubborn streak. God, she was brilliant. Straight A's without even trying. Captain of the debate team, violin virtuoso. She had this light in her eyes when she talked about her future. Pre-med at Stanford, then Johns Hopkins for medical school, then research, finding cures, saving lives, making her mother proud. I worked 60-hour weeks at the engineering firm to make sure she'd never have to worry about tuition, never have to choose between her dreams and our bank account. Every Saturday morning, I'd drive her to her violin lessons across town. Every Sunday, we'd make pancakes together. Her mother's recipe, the one with the secret ingredient of vanilla extract and cinnamon that Sarah never wrote down, but Emma somehow remembered perfectly. We'd eat them while watching old movies, the black and white ones that Emma pretended to hate but always ended up quoting later. "Dad, you work too hard," she'd tell me, her head resting on my shoulder during the opening credits of Casablanca. "Mom would want you to relax more." "Your mom would want me to make sure you never have to struggle the way we did," I'd reply, kissing the top of her head. "That's all that matters to me, sweetheart. You, your future. Everything I do is for you." She'd squeeze my hand. "I know, Dad. I love you." "I love you more than life itself, Emma." And I meant it. Every word. She was my reason for breathing, my purpose for existing. After Sarah died, Emma became my entire world. I'd look at her and see traces of my wife, the way she'd tuck her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, the way she'd bite her lower lip when she was trying not to cry, the way she'd throw her head back when she laughed, completely uninhibited and free. I thought we were close. I thought we were a team. I thought surviving Sarah's death together had bonded us in a way that nothing could ever break. I thought I knew my daughter inside and out. I thought I was doing everything right. But soon, I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. Little fractures in our perfect routine that I told myself were just normal teenage development. The way she'd suddenly tilt her phone away when I walked into the room. The way she started closing her bedroom door when she used to leave it open. The way her smile became just a little bit tighter, a little bit more forced when I'd ask about her day. "Everything okay, sweetie?" I'd ask. "Everything's fine, Dad," she'd say, but her eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. And like a fool, like an absolute fool, I believed her. Because believing her was easier than facing the possibility that something was wrong. Because I needed to believe that the perfect life I'd built for us was still intact. Because the alternative, that I was losing her, that the distance between us was growing wider every single day, was too painful to consider. Until one Thursday evening in late September, when everything I thought I knew came crashing down like a house of cards in a hurricane. First signs of trouble. The unsettling shift. It started with Tyler Bennett. That's the name that would come to define the destruction of everything I'd built. A senior at Emma's school, captain of the soccer team. Classic all-American boy with the kind of easy charm that had probably gotten him out of trouble his entire life. Emma mentioned him casually one night at dinner. "Tyler invited me to homecoming," she said, pushing pasta around her plate. "Tyler?" I looked up from my own plate. "Do I know Tyler?" "You've never met him, Dad. He's just a guy from school." "Well, I'd like to meet him before you go anywhere with him. That's the rule, Emma. You know that." Her jaw tightened. I saw it, that flash of defiance. "Dad, I'm 17. I don't need you to interview every person I talk to." "It's not an interview. It's called being a responsible parent. Your mother and I agreed." "Mom's dead." The words came out sharp, like a slap. "She's been dead for 4 years, Dad. You can't keep using her as an excuse to control my life." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's eyes went wide like she couldn't believe those words had actually come out of her mouth. I sat there, frozen, feeling like I'd been punched in the chest. "I didn't mean," she started. "Go to your room." My voice was quiet, controlled, but inside I was reeling. "We'll discuss this when you're ready to apologize." She pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the floor with a sound that made my teeth ache. "Whatever, Dad. God forbid I try to have a normal teenage life." She stormed upstairs, her door slammed, and I sat there at that dinner table, staring at 2 half-eaten plates of pasta, wondering when my daughter had started looking at me like I was her enemy instead of her father. But it got worse. So much worse. Over the next few weeks, Tyler became a constant presence. Not in our home, Emma made sure of that, but in our lives. She was always texting him, always making excuses to go out. Her grades started slipping. Not much, just from A's to B's, but for Emma, who'd always been so driven, so focused, it was a red flag the size of Texas. "Emma, we need to talk about your chemistry grade," I said one evening when she came home from study group at 8 p.m., which I was 99% sure was actually time spent with Tyler. "It's 1B, Dad. Calm down." "You've never gotten a B in chemistry in your life. What's going on?" "Maybe I'm just not interested in chemistry anymore. Did you ever think of that? Maybe I don't want to be a doctor. Maybe I want to do something else with my life." "Since when? You've wanted to be a doctor since you were 12 years old." "Yeah, well, people change. I changed. The world doesn't revolve around what you think I should do." He stopped smiling. Tyler did. The one time I actually managed to meet him when I accidentally showed up at the coffee shop where Emma said she'd be studying. The smile dropped right off his face when I introduced myself, replaced by this carefully neutral mask that made me instantly distrust him. He was too smooth, too polished, too quick with the yes sir and no sir responses that felt rehearsed. She stopped looking me in the eyes. My daughter, who used to tell me everything, who used to seek my advice on everything from homework to friendship drama to which dress to wear to the school concert, suddenly couldn't hold my gaze for more than 2 seconds. Every conversation became a negotiation, every question an interrogation in her mind. Where are you going? Out. Out where? Does it matter? Yes, Emma, it matters. I'm your father. I have a right to know where you are. I'll be back by curfew. Isn't that enough? No, it's not enough. Not when you've been acting like this. Not when you're throwing away your future for some boy. You don't know anything about Tyler, she'd explode. You don't know anything about my life. You just want to control everything because you couldn't control what happened to Mom. That one gutted me. Absolutely gutted me. Because there was truth in it, wasn't there? I couldn't control the cancer that ate away at Sarah from the inside. I couldn't control the way she faded day by day, no matter how many doctors we saw, no matter how many treatments we tried. I couldn't save her, but I'd be damned if I was going to lose Emma too. I'd be damned if I was going to stand by and watch her destroy her future for some teenage romance that wouldn't last past graduation. I'm trying to protect you, I said, my voice raw. I don't need your protection. I need you to trust me. Then give me a reason to trust you. Stop lying about where you are. Stop letting your grades slip. Stop pushing me away. Maybe I'm pushing you away because you're suffocating me. Tears were streaming down her face now. Maybe I can't breathe in this house anymore. Maybe everything you do for my own good is actually just for you, so you can feel like you're not a failure as a parent. Until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. It was 2 a.m. I'd gotten up to get water, couldn't sleep. My mind spinning with worry about Emma and her behavioral changes and the future that seemed to be slipping through both our fingers. I walked past her room on the way back to mine, and I noticed her light was still on, a thin strip of yellow glowing beneath her door. I knocked softly. Emma, you still awake? Silence. I knocked again. Sweetheart, it's really late. You need sleep. More silence. But I could hear something, movement, rustling, and then her voice, muffled, like she was talking to someone. I opened the door. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe that was the moment I crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And what I saw made my blood run cold. The window was wide open. Emma was fully dressed at 2 a.m, one leg already out the window, about to climb down the trellis we'd installed years ago for Sarah's roses. Emma! I rushed forward. She jerked back inside, her face flushed with guilt and anger and something else, fear. Dad, you can't just barge in here. You were sneaking out at 2 a.m. Where the hell were you going? That's none of your business. None of my business? You're 17 years old. Everything you do is my business. Were you going to see Tyler at 2 a.m? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? Do you have any idea what could happen to you? Nothing was going to happen to me. God, Dad, you're so paranoid. Get away from that window. Now. You can't tell me what to do. I'm your father. Yes, I can. We stood there, facing each other across her bedroom, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred. For me. Her father. The man who'd sacrificed everything for her. I hate you, she whispered. I hate you so much. The words hit me like bullets. Each one found its mark, tearing through whatever was left of my heart. Emma, no, I'm done. I'm done with your rules, your paranoia, your obsessive need to control every aspect of my life. I'm done living in this prison you call protection. I'm 18 in 3 months, and the second I turn 18, I'm gone. Do you hear me? I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. I mean every word. You killed Mom with your stubbornness, refusing to try alternative treatments, refusing to get a second opinion fast enough. And now you're trying to kill me too. You're trying to kill any chance I have at happiness, at freedom, at actually living my life instead of living out Mom's ghost through me. That's not true. It is true. Everything I do is measured against what Mom would have wanted, what Mom would have done, what would make Mom proud. Well, guess what, Dad? I'm not Mom. I'll never be Mom, and I shouldn't have to be. I stood there, speechless, watching my daughter crumble and rage and break apart in front of me, and I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how we'd gotten here. How had love become suffocation? How had protection become prison? I'm putting bars on this window tomorrow, I finally said, my voice hollow. And I'm taking your phone. Until you can prove to me that you're not going to throw your life away, until you can show me some responsibility, some respect. Respect? She laughed, but it was bitter, broken. You want respect? You have to earn respect, Dad, and you lost mine a long time ago. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I sat in my bedroom in the dark, replaying every moment of the last few years, trying to pinpoint where it all went wrong. Was Emma right? Had I been too controlling, too protective? Or was I just being a father, doing what any responsible parent would do when their child was clearly making destructive choices? Sarah, I thought, staring at her photo on my nightstand. What would you do? What would you say? Am I failing her? Am I failing both of you? But Sarah couldn't answer. Sarah was gone, and I was alone in this nightmare, trying to navigate teenage rebellion and parental duty and the crushing weight of grief that I'd apparently never properly dealt with. The next morning, I installed a lock on Emma's window. From the outside, she watched me do it, standing in her doorway with arms crossed, her face carved from stone. I hope you're happy, she said coldly, turning my bedroom into an actual prison cell. I'm keeping you safe. You're keeping me trapped. One day, you'll understand. When you have kids of your own, you'll understand that everything I'm doing is because I love you. That's not love, Dad. That's obsession. That's control. That's fear dressed up as affection. Real love means trusting someone. Real love means letting go. I let go of your mother and she died. I'm not letting go of you. The words hung in the air between us, ugly and honest and raw. Emma's expression shifted then, from anger to something that looked almost like pity. Mom died because she had cancer, Dad, not because you let go. Not because you didn't love her enough or protect her enough. She died because sometimes terrible things happen, and we can't control them. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you might actually be able to live again instead of just existing in this constant state of terror. She left for school before I could respond, and I stood there in her bedroom, surrounded by all the little girl memories, the stuffed animals on her shelf, the participation ribbons from elementary school track meets, the photos of her and Sarah baking cookies, laughing, covered in flour, and I wondered if she was right. Was I living in fear? Was that what had happened to me? Had Sarah's death broken something fundamental in my ability to trust the world, to trust that things would be okay, to trust that I could keep the people I loved safe? I called my brother that afternoon. David. He lived in Oregon with his wife and 2 kids, and we didn't talk as often as we should, but he'd always been the rational one in the family. "Johnson, you're suffocating her," he said after I explained the situation. "I know you mean well, but this isn't healthy. For either of you." "She was sneaking out at 2 in the morning, David. What was I supposed to do, just let her?" "No, of course not. But there's a middle ground between letting her do whatever she wants and turning her bedroom into Alcatraz. She's 17, not 7. She needs some autonomy, some trust. What if she gets hurt? What if something happens to her because I wasn't vigilant enough?" "Then something happens. Johnson, listen to yourself. You can't prevent every bad thing from occurring. You couldn't prevent Sarah's cancer, and you can't prevent Emma from making her own choices, even if some of those choices are mistakes. So I should just stand back and watch her throw her future away for some boy? I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to find a way to communicate with her that doesn't involve locks and ultimatums. You need to talk to her like she's almost an adult, not like she's a child who needs to be controlled. Because if you don't, Johnson, you're going to lose her. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. And that kind of loss, that might be permanent." His words echoed in my head all day, all week. I tried to be better. I tried to ease up, to talk to Emma with more respect, more understanding. But she'd already shut me out. Every conversation was clipped, minimal. She answered in monosyllables. She avoided being in the same room with me. The house that had once been filled with her violin music and her laughter and her constant chatter about her day became a tomb of silence. I'd see her texting Tyler constantly, smiling at her phone in ways she never smiled at me anymore, and the jealousy and fear and frustration would build up inside me until I thought I might explode from it. "Who are you texting?" I asked one evening at dinner. "A friend." "Tyler? Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters. I still haven't properly met this boy. I still don't know anything about him except that he's pulling you away from your responsibilities, away from your family." "You're not my family," she said quietly. "You're my jailer." Those words hurt worse than the "I hate you" had, because she said them so calmly, so matter-of-factly, like they were simply an observation about the weather. "Emma, please. Can we just talk? Can we start over? I'm trying here. I'm really trying to understand your perspective." "You're not trying to understand. You're trying to manipulate me into compliance. There's a difference." She left the table, left her food untouched, and I sat there wondering if my brother was right, wondering if I'd already lost her, wondering if the damage was irreparable. But the next morning, the evidence was right in front of me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was cleaning the bathroom we shared, something Emma usually did but hadn't been keeping up with lately. I found a crumpled piece of paper in the trash can, and normally I wouldn't have looked, but something made me smooth it out. It was a pregnancy test box, empty. My hands started shaking. My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. I stood there in that bathroom, holding that box, and my entire world tilted on its axis. No, 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 no. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. But it was real. The box was real. The implication was real. And suddenly every fight we'd had, every rule I'd tried to enforce, every warning I'd given her about being too serious too fast with Tyler, it had all been for this exact reason. To prevent this exact nightmare. I needed answers. I needed the truth. And I needed it now. I couldn't confront Emma directly. Not yet. Because if I was wrong, if I was jumping to conclusions based on a box in the trash and my own paranoid fears, then I'd destroy whatever microscopic thread still connected us. But if I was right, God, if I was right, then everything was so much worse than I'd imagined. I spent the entire day at work, unable to focus, unable to think about anything except that pregnancy test box and what it meant. Was Emma pregnant? Had she taken the test? What were the results? If she was pregnant, how far along? Was Tyler the father? Of course Tyler was the father. Who else would it be? My little girl, my baby, 17 years old and possibly pregnant. I thought about Sarah, about how she'd handled things when Emma had her first period, her first heartbreak in middle school when Tommy Richardson told her he liked Rachel Martinez instead. Sarah had been patient, understanding, open. She'd made everything feel safe and manageable. She would know what to do now. She would know how to talk to Emma without making everything worse. But Sarah was gone. And I was alone in this, drowning in it. That evening, when Emma came home from school, I watched her carefully, looking for signs. Weight gain? No. Morning sickness? Hard to tell. She'd been skipping breakfast lately, but I'd attributed that to our strained relationship, not potential pregnancy. Changes in mood? Yes, but again, I'd thought that was just teenage hormones and anger at me, not actual hormonal changes from pregnancy. How was school? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Fine. She didn't look at me. Any tests coming up? Chemistry exam next week. Do you need help studying? No, thanks. She retreated to her room. I heard her lock the door from the inside. She'd started doing that, even though I'd asked her not to, creating barriers between us, literal ones. I couldn't eat dinner. I pushed food around my plate, my stomach churning with anxiety. I needed to know the truth. I needed to find out what was happening with my daughter. But how? She wouldn't talk to me. She barely looked at me. We were strangers living in the same house. And then I thought about her phone. I'd taken it away for a week after the sneaking out incident, then given it back when she promised to follow curfew and be more open about where she was going. She'd kept her promises, technically, but she was still distant, still secretive. And her phone would have answers, text messages, photos, evidence of what was really going on. It was a violation of privacy. I knew that. It went against everything I believed about trust and respect, but desperate times called for desperate measures, and I was desperate. Desperate to save my daughter from a mistake that could alter the entire trajectory of her life. That night, after Emma went to bed, I waited. I sat in the living room with all the lights off, watching the clock tick toward midnight. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. When I was sure she was asleep, I crept upstairs, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. Her door was locked. Of course it was locked. But I had the master key, my house, my rules, even if she hated me for it. I unlocked the door as quietly as possible and slipped inside. Emma was asleep, her back to the door, her breathing deep and steady. Her phone was charging on her nightstand, just a few feet from where she lay. My hands were trembling as I picked it up. I knew her passcode. I'd required that as a condition of her having a phone at all. She'd complained, said it was an invasion of privacy, but I'd been firm. As long as I'm paying for the phone, I have the right to access it. I unlocked it. The screen glowed in the darkness, casting shadows across my daughter's sleeping face. She looked so young, so innocent in sleep, like the little girl she used to be before boys and rebellion and pregnancy scares. I opened her messages, started scrolling. Most of it was innocuous. Conversations with friends about homework and school drama and plans for the weekend. But then I found Tyler's messages. Hundreds of them. Can't wait to see you tonight. Your dad is insane. We should just run away together. I love you so much, Em. More than anything. Did you take the test? What did it say? My heart stopped. There it was. Confirmation. She had taken the pregnancy test. I kept scrolling, looking for her response, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Negative, thank God. That was too close. Way too close. We need to be more careful. Or we could just not care what happens. I'd have a baby with you. I'd have a whole future with you. Tyler, we're 17. So? My parents were 17 when they had me. Age doesn't matter when it's real love. My dad would literally kill us both. Then let's leave before he can. Graduate early, move to California, start over. Just us. I stood there, reading their plans to run away together, to throw away everything, Emma's education, her future, her potential, for a teenage romance that would probably burn out before she turned 20. And I felt something break inside me, some last vestige of hope that this was all just a phase, that Emma would come to her senses, that we'd get through this and laugh about it someday. No. This was serious. This was dangerous. And I had to stop it. I took screenshots of the most damning messages, sent them to myself. Evidence for... what? I didn't know yet. Maybe to show Emma later, to prove to her that I'd been right all along, that Tyler was manipulating her, filling her head with fantasies that would ruin her life. I put the phone back on the charger and slipped out of her room as silently as I'd entered. Back in my own bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the screenshots on my phone, and I made a decision. That night, I pressed record on the security camera I installed outside Emma's window while she was at school the next day. I waited. I watched. I became exactly what she accused me of being, a jailer, a warden, a paranoid controller who couldn't let go. But I didn't care. Not anymore. Because I wasn't going to lose her. Not to some boy, not to some fantasy, not to anything. Even if she hated me forever, at least she'd be safe. At least she'd have a future. Even if that future didn't include me. 3 days later, the camera caught everything. I was at work when the motion sensor alert pinged my phone. I pulled up the live feed, and there she was. Emma, climbing out her bedroom window at 4:30 in the afternoon, clearly having skipped her last 2 periods of school. She shimmied down the trellis with practiced ease that told me this was far from the first time she'd done this. A car was waiting at the curb. Tyler's car. I recognized it from the one time I'd seen him pick her up for what Emma claimed was a group study session. I watched her run to the car, watched her get in, watched them drive away, and something inside me just snapped. I left work immediately. Told my boss there was a family emergency, and it was true, wasn't it? This was an emergency. This was my daughter's entire life going off the rails, and I was the only one who seemed to care enough to stop it. I drove home well above the speed limit, my mind racing faster than the car. What were they doing? Where were they going? Was this another pregnancy scare? Were they planning to run away today? Right now? When I got home, I called Emma's phone. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Emma, this is your father. I know you're with Tyler. I know you skipped school. You need to come home right now. We need to talk about this. About everything. Please, sweetheart. Just come home. No response. I called Tyler's phone. I'd gotten the number from Emma's contact list during my midnight reconnaissance mission. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? Tyler, this is Emma's father. I need you to bring her home right now. Silence. Then, sir, with all due respect, Emma's almost 18. She can make her own decisions about where she wants to be. She's 17. She's a minor. She's my daughter. And if you don't bring her home in the next hour, I'm calling the police and reporting her as a runaway, and you as an accessory. You wouldn't try me. I hung up. My hands were shaking with rage and fear, and something I couldn't even name. I felt like I was losing my mind. Like I was standing on the edge of a cliff and the ground was crumbling beneath my feet and there was nothing to hold on to. 2 hours later, Tyler's car pulled up in front of the house. Emma got out, slammed the door so hard I heard it from inside. She stormed up the walkway, her face flushed with fury, tears streaming down her cheeks. She burst through the front door. "How dare you? How dare you threaten him? How dare you track me and spy on me and ruin the one good thing in my life?" The one good thing? I stood up from the couch where I'd been waiting. "Emma, he's ruining your future. Don't you see that? All these plans to run away, to throw away your education, to throw away everything you've worked for." "How do you know about our plans?" Her face went pale. "Have you been reading my messages? I'm your father. I have a right. You have no right. No right to violate my privacy, no right to control who I see, no right to dictate my future. I'm not your property. You're my daughter. You're my responsibility. And I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy your life." "My life?" She laughed, but it was hysterical, broken. "This isn't my life. This is your life, your plan, your dream. Everything about my life has been about what you want, what you think is best, what you think Mom would have wanted. But did you ever stop to ask me what I want? You want to throw away Stanford for some boy you've known for 3 months. I want to make my own choices. I want to make my own mistakes. I want to live without feeling like I'm being watched and judged every single second of every single day. But you can't let me, can you? Because if you let me go, if you let me be my own person, then you have nothing. Then you're just a sad, lonely man in an empty house with nothing but ghosts and regrets." The words hit me like physical blows. I staggered back, reaching for the wall to steady myself. "Emma, no, I'm done. I tried to wait until I was 18. I tried to stick it out, but I can't. I can't do this anymore. I can't be the replacement for Mom that you're trying to turn me into. I can't be your reason for living. It's too much pressure, Dad. It's crushing me. I'm not trying to replace your mother. I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" "From life. From experience. From growing up. You can't protect me from everything, Dad. And trying to is killing us both." I froze. My whole world collapsed in a single frame. Because I saw it then. Really saw it for the first time. The exhaustion in her eyes, the defeat in her shoulders, the way she looked at me like I was a burden she couldn't carry anymore instead of a father she loved. "I'm leaving," she said quietly. "Tonight. Tyler's picking me up at midnight. I'm going to stay with his family until I turn 18, and then we're moving to California. I'm getting my GED instead of finishing senior year. I'm going to community college instead of Stanford, and I'm going to build a life that's mine. Not yours, not Mom's ghost. Mine. Emma, please. And Dad?" She looked me straight in the eyes, and I saw no love there, no affection, no connection, just emptiness. "You're dead to me. As of right now, you're dead. I don't have a father anymore. Because a real father would love me enough to let me go. A real father would trust me enough to make my own decisions. A real father would see that his controlling and his obsessing is doing more harm than the dangers he's supposedly protecting me from. But you can't see that. You'll never see that. So we're done." She turned and walked upstairs. I heard her door slam, heard her lock it, heard her start packing. And I stood there in my living room, in the house I'd filled with memories of Emma and Sarah, and I felt like I was dying, actually dying. Like my heart was stopping, my lungs were collapsing, my soul was leaving my body. But what happened next was even worse. I couldn't let her leave. I physically couldn't do it. The thought of Emma walking out that door, getting into Tyler's car, disappearing from my life, it was unbearable. It was impossible. It was the one thing I absolutely could not allow to happen, so I did something I'm still not sure I can forgive myself for. I called the police. "My daughter is planning to run away with an 18-year-old boy," I told the dispatcher. "She's 17, he's an adult. I need you to stop this before she makes a mistake that will ruin her entire life." The dispatcher asked questions. I answered them. Address, description of Emma, description of Tyler, description of his car, expected time of departure. "We'll send an officer to your residence, sir. But I need to inform you that if your daughter is 17 and willingly leaving, there's not much we can do to stop her unless there's evidence of coercion or abuse. He's manipulating her. He's isolated her from her family, convinced her to throw away her future. That's a family matter, sir, not a legal one. But we'll send someone to talk to everyone and assess the situation." They came at 11:30. 2 officers. A man and a woman. They knocked on the door and I let them in, and Emma came down the stairs with her suitcase and saw them and just shattered. "You called the cops on me?" she screamed. "You actually called the police? What is wrong with you?" "I'm trying to save you," I yelled back. "Why can't you see that?" The female officer stepped between us. "Let's everyone take a breath. Emma, is it? Can you tell us what's going on here?" "My father is insane," Emma said, her voice shaking. "He's been spying on me, reading my messages, tracking my location, installing cameras outside my window. He's made my life a living hell. And I'm trying to leave because I can't take it anymore." "And where are you planning to go?" "To my boyfriend's house. His parents have agreed to let me stay there until I turn 18 in 3 months. "And how old is your boyfriend?" 18. But he's still in high school. We're in the same grade. He just has a late birthday." The officers looked at each other, then at me. "Sir," the male officer said, "what your daughter is describing, the surveillance, the invasion of privacy, that's concerning behavior. And legally, there's nothing we can do to stop a 17-year-old from leaving home unless there's evidence of danger or abuse at the destination." "She's throwing away her future," I said desperately. "She got into Stanford. She's brilliant. And this boy is convincing her to give it all up." "That's her choice to make," the female officer said gently. "I understand this is difficult, but your daughter is almost an adult. You can't force her to stay against her will. So you're just going to let her leave? You're just going to let him take her? We're going to make sure she's safe and that she's making this decision freely, without coercion. Emma, has Tyler or anyone else forced you to leave, threatened you, hurt you in any way?" "No," Emma said. "The only person who's hurt me is my father." Those words were a knife in my heart. The officers talked to Emma alone. Then they talked to me alone. Then they left, and Emma was still there, but only because Tyler had texted to say his parents needed to talk to him first. So pickup was delayed until morning. One more night. I had one more night to fix this, to make her understand, to save her from herself. "Emma," I said, my voice broken, "please. Please just listen to me. I know I've made mistakes. I know I've been too controlling. But everything I've done has been because I love you. Because I can't lose you the way I lost your mom. Can't you see that?" She was sitting on the stairs, her packed suitcase beside her. She looked up at me with eyes that were red from crying, exhausted from fighting. "Dad, I'm not Mom. I'm not dying. I'm not leaving you because of cancer or any disease. I'm leaving because you're suffocating me. And if you really love me, if you really want what's best for me, then you'll let me go. You'll let me figure out my own life, make my own mistakes, learn my own lessons. That's what love is, not control, not surveillance, not trying to trap me in your vision of what my life should be. What if you're wrong? What if leaving with Tyler is a mistake? What if you regret it? Then I'll regret it, and I'll learn from it, and I'll grow from it. But at least it will be my mistake, my regret, my life. We sat there in silence for a long time. The clock ticked, the house settled, and I realized that I'd already lost her. Not tomorrow when Tyler came to pick her up, not when she walked out the door with her suitcase. I'd lost her weeks ago, months ago, maybe even years ago when I'd let my grief over Sarah morph into this obsessive need to control every aspect of Emma's existence. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I didn't know how to be your father without your mother here to balance me out. I didn't know how to let you grow up without feeling like I was failing to protect you. I'm sorry I made you feel trapped instead of loved." Emma didn't respond. She just picked up her suitcase and went back to her room. In the morning, Tyler came. His parents came too. A kind-looking couple who assured me they'd take care of Emma, make sure she finished school, help her apply to colleges when she was ready. They seemed sincere. They seemed like good people, but it didn't matter, because Emma was leaving, and I had to watch her go. She stopped at the door with her suitcase, looked back at me one last time. "Goodbye, Dad." Not, "I love you." Not, "I'll call you." Just, "Goodbye." And then she was gone. I thought it was over, but I was wrong, because 3 years later she came back. The 3 years between Emma walking out that door and the night she came back were the darkest of my life. Darker even than the year Sarah died. Because at least when Sarah died, I had Emma. I had a purpose. I had someone to take care of, someone to live for. But after Emma left, I had nothing. Just an empty house full of ghosts and regrets and the echoing silence of my own failures as a father. I tried to reach out to her at first. Called her phone every day for 2 weeks until she blocked my number. Sent emails that went unanswered. Showed up at Tyler's parents' house once, and his father very firmly but politely told me I wasn't welcome, that Emma had made it clear she didn't want contact, and that I needed to respect her wishes or he'd get a restraining order. A restraining order against me, her father. The man who devoted his entire life to her well-being. I fell apart. Stopped going to work consistently enough that they eventually let me go. Stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping, stopped caring about anything at all. My brother David called constantly, worried, begged me to come stay with him in Oregon, to get therapy, to find a way to live again. "Johnson, you can't do this to yourself," he said. "Emma made her choice. She's living her life. You need to live yours." "I don't know how," I told him honestly. "I don't know how to exist in a world where my daughter hates me." "She doesn't hate you. She's just angry. Give her time. Give her space. Maybe eventually she'll come around." But she didn't come around. Months passed, then a year, then 2. I heard things through distant relatives. Emma had gotten her GED. Emma and Tyler had broken up after a year, just like I'd predicted, but she'd stayed in California anyway. Emma was working as a waitress and taking classes at community college. Emma was doing fine. Emma was happy. Emma didn't need me. I eventually got another job, a lesser position at a smaller firm. Got myself into therapy like David insisted. Started the long, painful process of trying to understand how I'd become the villain in my own daughter's story. Started trying to forgive myself for loving her too much in all the wrong ways. My therapist, Dr. Chen, had me write letters to Emma that I never sent. Letters where I apologized. Letters where I explained my perspective. Letters where I tried to articulate the terror that had driven all my worst decisions. You were trying to prevent loss by creating control, she told me. After Sarah died, you felt powerless, helpless, and that's a horrible feeling. So you overcompensated with Emma. You tried to control everything about her life so you'd never have to feel that powerless again. But control isn't love, Johnson. And it doesn't actually prevent loss. It just guarantees it in a different form. I knew she was right. God, I knew she was right. But knowing it, and actually changing the fundamental way I thought about love and protection, those were two different things. I learned to live with the guilt, with the regret, with the knowledge that I'd destroyed the most important relationship in my life because I couldn't distinguish between protecting and imprisoning. I learned to live with Emma's absence, even though every Father's Day, every birthday, every Christmas felt like a fresh wound. I learned to live in my empty house with my ghosts and my memories and the crushing weight of everything I'd done wrong. And then, 3 years and 2 months after she'd walked out, on a cold November night with rain pouring down like the sky was weeping, there was a knock at my door. I almost didn't answer. It was late, past 11. Who would be at my door at this hour? But something made me get up from the couch where I'd been watching mindless television, trying to quiet my thoughts enough to sleep eventually. I opened the door, and there was Emma, soaked from the rain, shivering, her eyes hollow and terrified, a bruise blooming purple-blue across her left cheekbone, cuts on her hands, her clothes torn. "Dad," she whispered, "I need help." And just when I thought life was returning to normal, something unexpected happened. My daughter, who'd declared me dead to her 3 years ago, was standing on my doorstep looking like she'd barely escaped from hell itself. I pulled Emma inside without hesitation, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, sat her down on the couch. My hands were shaking as I examined her face, the bruise, the cuts, the absolute terror in her eyes. "What happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was racing. "Emma, sweetheart, what happened to you?" She was shaking so hard she could barely speak. There was this guy, Jake. I was dating him. He seemed nice at first. So nice. But then he got controlling, jealous, and tonight he lost it. She broke down, sobbed into her hands, and I held her. My daughter who'd been missing from my life for 3 years, and felt every instinct in my body screaming to fix this, to make it better, to hunt down whoever had hurt her and make them pay. But I forced myself to breathe, to stay calm, to be what she needed in this moment. Not a vigilante, not a controller, but a father. A safe place, a refuge. "You're safe now," I said quietly. "You're safe. He can't hurt you here." "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I said such horrible things to you. I told you that you were dead to me. I cut you out of my life completely. And now I'm here, asking for help, and you have every right to turn me away." "Emma, look at me." I lifted her chin gently until her eyes met mine. "You are my daughter. You will always be my daughter. I will always help you, no matter what. No matter what you said. No matter how much time has passed. You came to me because you knew that, because some part of you, even after everything, knew that I love you. And I do. I love you so much." She cried harder. "I didn't understand. I didn't understand what you were trying to do. I thought you were just being controlling. But tonight, when he wouldn't let me leave, when he grabbed me and pushed me against the wall and told me I belonged to him, I understood. I understood what you were trying to protect me from. The danger, the possibility of getting hurt. Emma, no. I held her tighter. That's not the lesson here. Yes, I was trying to protect you, but I went about it all wrong. What I did, the surveillance, the control, the inability to let you make your own choices, that wasn't protection. That was fear. That was my trauma, my inability to deal with loss being projected onto you. And it drove you away. It drove you to a place where you couldn't come to me when you actually needed help. That's on me, not you. But I should have listened. No, you were 17 years old, trying to figure out who you were, trying to establish your own identity. That's normal. That's healthy. I should have found a way to guide you without suffocating you. I should have trusted you more. Trusted your judgment, your intelligence, your ability to learn from mistakes. We sat there for a long time, Emma crying in my arms, both of us processing 3 years of pain and regret and missed time that we could never get back. Eventually, I convinced her to let me take photos of her injuries, to call the police, to file a report against Jake. She didn't want to at first. She was scared, embarrassed, worried that somehow this was her fault. But I stayed with her through the whole process, held her hand while she gave her statement, drove her to the hospital to get checked out and document everything. The police took it seriously. They arrested Jake that night. And while the legal process was just beginning, at least Emma was safe. At least she was here, with me, where I could actually help her. In the days that followed, we talked. Really talked. Maybe for the first time in years, we had honest conversations about everything. About Sarah's death and how I'd never properly grieved. About my control issues and how they'd poisoned our relationship. About Tyler and how that relationship had ended, not dramatically, but naturally, as they'd both grown and realized they wanted different things. About Emma's life in California, the good parts and the struggles. About her dreams, which had changed but were still there, still bright. I still want to help people, she told me one evening over dinner. Spaghetti, her favorite, the way Sarah used to make it. Maybe not as a doctor, maybe as a therapist or a social worker, someone who helps people escape from situations like I was in with Jake. You'd be amazing at that, I said honestly. You're strong, Emma. Stronger than I ever gave you credit for. I'm only strong because you raised me that way, she said. Even when I hated you for it, you taught me to stand up for myself, to have standards, to not accept less than I deserved. I had to learn those lessons my own way, on my own timeline. And that meant making mistakes, including Jake. I'm sorry you had to learn that way. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you when you needed me. You're here now. That's what matters. We started rebuilding, slowly, carefully, like architects reconstructing a building that had burned to the ground, trying to create something new while honoring what had been there before. I learned to ask instead of demand, to suggest instead of control, to trust Emma's judgment even when it scared me. She learned to forgive, to see that my mistakes had come from love, even if that love had been expressed in toxic ways. We went to therapy together, worked through our issues with Dr. Chen mediating. It was hard. It was painful. There were sessions where we both cried, where old wounds were reopened, where it felt like we'd never get past the damage. But we kept trying, kept showing up, kept choosing each other despite everything. Emma stayed with me for 6 months while she got back on her feet, got a restraining order against Jake, started processing the trauma of that relationship. Then she got her own apartment nearby, close enough to visit regularly, but far enough to maintain her independence. She went back to school, got her associate's degree from community college, then transferred to a state university for her bachelor's in social work. I helped with tuition, Not as a condition, not as a way to control her choices, but as a gift. As a father supporting his daughter's dreams. She met someone new eventually. A kind man named Daniel who treated her with respect, who supported her ambitions, who made her laugh. She brought him to meet me, nervous, worried that I'd be critical or controlling or disapproving, but I wasn't. I welcomed him. I got to know him. And when I saw how he looked at Emma, with genuine love and respect and partnership, I felt peace. Real peace. For the first time in years. "Thank you," Emma said after that dinner with Daniel, "for being different than you were with Tyler, for trusting me." "Thank you for giving me another chance," I said, "for not giving up on me, even when you had every reason to." Now, 5 years after she came back, our relationship is better than it's ever been. Not perfect. We still have moments where my old instincts kick in, where I have to consciously stop myself from overstepping. Moments where Emma still carries scars from our past that affect how she responds to me. But we're real now. Honest. We've built something based on mutual respect instead of control, on trust instead of fear. And I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean protecting them from every possible harm. It means preparing them to handle harm when it comes. It means giving them the tools and the confidence and the support to navigate a dangerous world while still living fully in it. If something feels wrong, trust your instincts. I tell Emma this now, but I also told her to trust her instincts, not mine. You know yourself better than I ever will. You know what's right for your life. And I trust you to figure it out, even if that means making mistakes sometimes. If you're a parent reading this, wrestling with the line between protection and control, learn from my mistakes. Love your children enough to let them fall. Love them enough to let them make choices you don't agree with. Love them enough to be there when those choices lead to consequences, without saying, "I told you so." Because the alternative, driving them away in the name of keeping them safe, that's not protection. That's loss. Self-inflicted, preventable loss. And that's a wound that might heal eventually, if you're lucky like I was. But it leaves scars. On both of you. Forever. If you're a child reading this, someone struggling with a controlling parent, know that their control comes from fear. From love twisted by trauma. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean you have to accept it. But maybe, if you can find a way to communicate your needs, to set boundaries while still leaving the door open for connection, you can avoid the 3 years of silence that Emma and I endured. You might save a life, even your own, by trusting that voice inside you that says something's wrong. Whether that something is a dangerous relationship or a parent who's crossed the line from love into control. And that's not the only secret I discovered that year. I discovered that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who love us most. And sometimes, if we're brave enough, if we're humble enough, if we're willing to do the hard work of change and forgiveness, we can find our way back to each other. Not to who we were, but to something new, something better, something built on the ruins of what was broken. If this story touched your heart, if it resonated with something in your own life, please like this video and subscribe. But more than that, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Tell me about your relationship with your parents or your children. Tell me about the mistakes you've made or the forgiveness you've offered. Because stories like this, painful, messy, real stories about family and love and loss and finding your way back, they matter. They remind us that we're not alone in our struggles, that other people have walked through the fire and come out the other side, scarred but alive. It really means the world to me to know that someone out there is listening, that someone out there understands, that maybe, just maybe, by sharing my story, I can help someone else avoid the mistakes I made, or find the courage to rebuild what's been broken, or simply feel less alone in their pain. Emma and I are okay now. More than okay. We're genuinely, authentically connected in a way we never were before, even when she was a little girl and I thought everything was perfect. Because this connection is built on truth instead of illusion, on acceptance instead of control, on the hard-won knowledge that love means letting go as much as holding on. My name is Johnson. I'm 53 years old, and I lost my daughter by trying too hard to keep her. But I found her again by learning to love her the way she needed to be loved, not the way my fear demanded. And if an old fool like me can learn that lesson, can change those deeply ingrained patterns, can rebuild trust after shattering it so completely, then maybe there's hope for any broken relationship, any fractured family, any love that's been damaged by fear and control and the inability to let go. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that even our worst mistakes don't have to be our final chapters. From wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, whatever struggles you're facing with the people you love, I see you, I hear you, and I hope my story gives you something. Hope, maybe, or courage, or just the simple comfort of knowing you're not alone. Take care of yourselves. Hold your loved ones close, but not so close that they can't breathe. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is opening your hands and letting someone choose their own path, even when every instinct screams at you to hold on tighter. Until next time.